latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. We are recording this on a Sunday, May 20th, 2018, about 6:46 in the evening. So for my Blog Talk Radio audience, you will be able to listen to this podcast probably sometime tomorrow morning, early afternoon. But again, right now we are on YouTube and YouTube only. I'll put this on Blog Talk Radio tomorrow on this as we get ready for a game three of the Western Conference Finals, and hopefully at some point during these conference finals we get a competitive game in let's say the last 5 minutes, or maybe even say the last, even the fourth quarter. Last night you saw Cleveland do what probably most of us expected them to do, and that was to come back, get a little home cooking, and take out the Celtics in game three, 116 to 118, 116 to 86. This game was, never in doubt. Cleveland had about six guys in double figures, led by, of course, LeBron James, who I thought pound for pound had his best game of the playoffs, not just this series, but of the playoffs, considering everything he did. Forget about the points. His defense alone, he was all over the place defensively, with the blocks, with the rotations, with the just all over the place. I thought his all around performance was the best that he's had in these playoffs. I know he's put up some gaudy numbers, but remember, he had a 40-point triple double in game two, and they lost by 13 points. This game, and if you look at such things, I don't get too much in it, but he did have a plus minus of 31. Cleveland made 17 threes. Again, you got some performances. You got a good performance out of George Hill. We got Corver making shots. You had even J.R. Smith appearance as he finally was able to knock down a couple threes. And had a Boston team that has not played well on the road during these playoffs. Lost 3 games to Milwaukee. Could have easily lost 2 games to Philly. Probably should have lost 2 games to Philly. So we'll see if Boston can get back in this game 4. Before this thing gets back to Boston. If you're Boston, all you have to do is get one game to completely take control of the series. Again, Cleveland, you want to gauge Cleveland. How you gauge Cleveland is how many threes that they're making. That's all you got to look at in terms of the box score. Even if you don't look at the game, how many threes? If Cleveland's making threes, they become dangerous. If they're not making threes, they have a tough time of scoring the basketball if they're not making 3-point shots. So LeBron gets help. Boston basically doesn't show up, and Cleveland closes the series to two games to 1. As far as tonight goes, you have Golden State looking to get some home cooking of their own, coming off a 22-point loss to Houston. Again, a lot of talking in the last couple of days about Curry and is he healthy, and has Houston finally solved the Golden State riddle in terms of what they did in game 2. Again, I said this a couple of days ago. I don't buy into the fact that Golden State is still not in control of this series. I don't buy that. I don't buy into that at all. Curry, all the talk about Curry. Curry claims that he's healthy. Steve Kerr believes that he's healthy. That his struggles are a case of rust and not the knee injury. Not playing competitive basketball basically for the better part of 6 to 8 weeks. So we'll see what happens in game 3. Again, I don't think that Curry and Klay Thompson are not combining for 24 points at home. I expect them to both have big games. I don't expect Houston's role players to play as well. I'm talking in terms of P.J. Tucker, Trevor Ariza, guys like that. You can throw in Eric Gordon in that mix. So again, it's going to come down to me. Can Houston continue? Can Houston be patient as far as moving the basketball? As far as moving the basketball versus isolation versus taking quick shots? That's what to me was going to come down to. I think they came out getting those. When you get 68 points out of 3 players, they're not getting 68 points out of Ariza, Gordon, and P.J. Tucker. That's not going to happen. So this is going to have to be a James Harden, Chris Paul type dominant performance. Chris Paul's played well in this series so far, even despite the fact that he didn't put up major point numbers. He was in total control of the game as far as controlling the pace, with his passing, his defense, and he needs to have. I think he's going to need to score the basketball in this game. Though I think you're going to have to get at least, I think 50. You're going to get at least, I think, 60 out of the Chris Paul, James Harden backcourt, between 55 and 60 points out of that backcourt. Because again, I just don't think that the Houston role players are going to show up the way they've showed up in the past in the last game. But with that being said, I still think Golden State will win this game. I think Golden State is still in control of this series, and we'll see what happens in Game 3. Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be on an every other day basis. As I get my water here, Eastern Conference playoffs are going to be on an every other game basis. Houston now moving forward, so you'll have Monday. They'll have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday. You'll have a Monday, Wednesday for sure. Friday, if Friday would be Friday, Sunday. So Eastern Conference playoffs in terms of the schedule is going to be every other day. You heard J.R. Smith in the press conference last night, talk about how much those 3 days helped. Those 3 days off helped Cleveland. So it's going to be very interesting to watch Cleveland in this game for Monday night. They will coming off a basically short rest. They got some older guys on that team. The younger players don't barely play. I mean, those guys, what is Hood, not Hood, what Clarkson and Nance are not playing a lot. Hood's playing a little bit. So it's gonna be interesting to watch some of their older players try to recover off of such a short turnaround in a game 4. Again, if you're somebody who's an NBA fan, you just hope that you get a competitive game. The average margin of victory through the first 5 conference finals games has been 21 points, which is is something that you normally would see, like say in the first round or something. You're not accustomed to seeing that in a conference finals with the 4 best teams, with the 4 best teams in the league. So we just hope that we get a very good game come tonight and also come tomorrow evening in Cleveland. Today's headlines: you had the Nationals getting swept by the Dodgers. The Nationals lose a series to a Dodger team that's not that good. A Dodger team that came in and currently is in last place. I think the Dodgers are in last place. I can check real quick. Or second to last place, 20-26. They've won 4. Dodgers won 4 straight. The Nationals, again, anytime you lose a series, one thing to get swept, but when you lose a series and your 2 best pitchers pitch with the 2 best pitchers pitching games 3 and 4, games 2 and 3. It's definitely wasn't a good weekend for the Nationals, losing games with Scherzer, blowing a Scherzer performance last night with the bullpen, and and Strasburg wasn't great today, but he was okay. Pitched certainly well enough for them to win the game. But again, the Nationals right now offensively are struggling. Struggled mightily in this series, especially runners in scoring position. The bullpen was terrible over the course of the last 2 days. The bullpen was a joke, and they hope to get healthy again, facing these San Diego Padres come tomorrow. The Nationals, again, who knows what would have happened had they been able to play those games. Those games wouldn't have got rained out with the Yankees. You would like to see that series get played. It was 3-3, 6 innings. So you don't know how much of an effect that had on this series. But the bottom line is the Nationals get swept by a Dodger team that is, again, 6 games under 500 as we 6 games under 500 as we speak. In terms of the Capitals, I talked to a Capitals fan today, and he basically, this shows you the state of DC sports and how much they believe in curses and what have you. Capitals fan, this particular fan said they didn't even watch the last 2 games. Like after Game 3, where the Capitals were still up 2 games to 1, that they just knew what was coming. Capitals, of course, lost last night to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay will look to wrap up that series tomorrow evening in DC at Verizon Center or Capital One Center or Capital One Arena down in DC. Listen, we've seen times in sports, especially basketball and baseball, where a team wins the first two games and then loses four straight. There's not it happens more often than not. I can't see the Capitals going out losing four straight games. I think they will win. They will win Game Six, and again, I favor Tampa Bay in Game Seven at home, but I think the Capitals still, still will be heard from um, in a game six. It's not like Tampa Bay's blowing them out. That game last night was a winnable game. Capitals blew some opportunities on on some power plays that they could not convert. But I'm not completely thinking. I don't think that the Capitals are finished by any stretch of the imagination. I think they'll get home. I think they'll play well, and I think they will force a game seven. The Vegas Golden Knights advanced to the Stanley Cup expansion team in their first year of play. Now, man, they are not a typical expansion team. Okay, they are not a typical expansion team. Let's keep that in mind. But no one, I don't think anybody saw this coming as they take out Winnipeg Jets 4 games to 1. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the Stanley Cup. And again, if you're the NHL, to me, the dream, I shouldn't say the dream Stanley Cup, but the Stanley Cup you wanted was the Washington and Vegas versus, say, Tampa Bay, Winnipeg. Tampa Bay, Vegas would be decent, but you still will want the Capitals, and you still want the Capitals and the Golden Knights. Golden Knights will be it's kind of like it's not a Cinderella story, even though they had a great regular season and played well and played clearly have played well throughout the course of the playoffs. And of course, Capitals, you need the big star as far as Alexander Ovechkin. In terms of Ovechkin, so you want the big star against the Cinderella team. That is what I'm sure the NHL is hoping for in terms of the Stanley Cup. In regards to the Preakness yesterday, you had Justified taking the second leg of the Triple Crown on a rainy, sloppy track, a lot of fog. You can barely even see the race. Justified barely beating out Bravado. Not it wasn't by a nose, but it was a lot closer than I'm sure than Dwayne Lucas would have expected it to be. I looked at this horse now. Again, the performance his performance in the Kentucky Derby was much better, but I look at this horse. This does not look like a great horse to me. I see. I mean, now maybe it's because of the wet tracks. He's ran on two wet tracks in back to back in Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. Maybe 3 weeks from yesterday at Belmont, you will see him on hopefully a fast track. That Belmont track is a fast track. You will hopefully see the best of him, but I don't think he's going to win the Triple Crown. To be honest with you, I think that those horses who are well rested will be able to catch up with him and really catch up with him. They had, of course, 8 horses that did not run Kentucky Derby will run it at Belmont, and they do that purposely, of course, so they can hopefully wear the leading horse down. That course will be justified. So they're looking, and again, Belmont is the longest track out of all the tracks, a mile and a half. So that is the longest track. And again, this race will be the toughest race for Justified to win out of both Triple Crown races, because you're going to have some fresh horses, number one, and number two, because of the length of the track. Again, I look at American Pharoah, California Chrome, Big Brown, some of the recent horses that have either come close to winning a Triple Crown, or in the case of American Pharoah, winning a Triple Crown, as much more superior horses than Justified. I don't think Justified to me is a big time horse is a great horse. So I would be surprised if Justify won the Triple Crown come again at Belmont 3 weeks from yesterday. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but surely it is always great for the race for horse racing when they can have a Triple Crown candidate heading into Belmont, as they look for the second Triple Crown winner in 4 years. Of course, we got American Pharoah win the Triple Crown back in 2015, and you're looking at possibly a second one in the last 4 years. Though I don't think that this is a big time horse, but in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. Again, no phone calls. We are strictly on YouTube tonight. No phone calls. I will shift this podcast over to Blog Talk Radio As soon as this probably early tomorrow morning, you'll see this air on Blog Talk Radio, so be on the lookout for that. You can always follow me at Real on Twitter at William Gerald, or go to my website, or go to my Instagram page uh, Rillo Rillo.GeraldQuinn. So we'll stay tuned. You can stay tuned for that. Again, you have the NBA tonight. Game three, Golden State, Houston. Golden State looking to firmly take control of the series and go up 2 games to 1. You saw last night Cleveland stay alive basically against the Boston Celtics, which again no surprise whatsoever. Them taking out Boston in a game three. Boston young team been bad on the road. We'll see if Boston can bounce back tomorrow. There was a rumor not over the weekend, the last couple of days about Karl Anthony Towns and the idea that apparently Minnesota and Karl Anthony Towns are not happy with each other, and the idea that Karl Anthony Towns could be on the trading block. I'm gonna tell you right now, Minnesota trades Karl Anthony Towns. Be one of the dumbest trades that you can ever make if you're a franchise that wants to do anything moving forward. First of all, Karl Anthony Towns perfectly matches up with a team that you're chasing right now in the Western Conference, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors have no Golden State Warriors have no matchup for Karl Anthony Towns. With his size, his ability to stretch your defense, rebounding, blocking shots. I understand he was shaky in the playoffs, but again, I don't, I have to attribute that to their organization, to Tom Thibodeau, in terms of how he utilized Towns in the playoffs. But again, when you start hearing stuff when you start hearing things like this, there's some truth to it. Like rumors just don't start up out of anywhere in the NBA. We've seen enough big trades in the last couple of years, and enough crazy things happen in the NBA off seasons to have to take stuff like this seriously. When you hear about this, again, it would be the dumbest move that Minnesota could possibly make, to move a guy that's 7 feet, that a 2010 player who's only 22 years old. He hasn't even reached it. He's barely scratching the surface of how great of a player he can be. So I don't. Again, he's still on. He's still on his rookie deal. Um, I don't know what the deal is between he and Thibodeau, where they're not getting along. But to me, I would fire Thibodeau before I got rid of Karl Anthony Towns, if it comes down between the two of them. I mean, let's not make Tom Thibodeau Greg Popovich. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but those rumors definitely are out there, and those rumors are definitely real when they're talking about when you talk about the number of guys that could be possibly moved this summer, and that are still under contract, and apparently Karl Anthony Towns is one of them. So we're gonna see what happens with that. Again, I doubt that will happen. To me, it makes zero sense to you sign Andrew Wiggins to this mega extension, last summer, and trade Karl Anthony Towns. To me, that would make zero sense. But who knows? This is a franchise that passed on Steph Curry twice, um, though under different management now. But still, Minnesota has had a history of doing some dumb stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition, this abbreviated edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I will see you soon on Blog Talk Radio as well. So long.